They were a couple who had everything except the cry of a child. For years, they prayed, they fasted, they wept. And then, their miracle came. But sometimes, the answers we receive are not the blessings we expect. What began as love soon became worship. What began as a blessing slowly turned into a curse. This is the story of Nkem, the child they prayed for, who became their nightmare. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications bell so you don't miss any of our stories. So sit tight and grab your popcorn as we dive into this life-changing story that will keep you on your feet. The house was beautiful but hollow. Each morning, Amora swept the tiled floor of their Enugu home, her broom stirring dust that seemed louder than any laughter. The rooms were painted bright cream, the curtains freshly laundered, yet something essential was missing. Silence pressed against the walls, thick and cruel. She paused by the door of the room that should have been a nursery. The window let in sunlight, warming the cot that had been bought years ago but never used. Amora placed her hand on the rail, her fingers trembling. Behind her, Chidi's footsteps echoed. He stopped at the doorway, watching her silently. His eyes, once full of hope, were now shadowed. He didn't need to ask what she was thinking. He already knew. "Come," he said softly, his voice steady, though his chest felt like it was cracking. "Let's eat." Amora smiled faintly, hiding the tears welling in her eyes. She followed him, leaving the room as empty as it had been for 10 long years. Nights were the hardest. When darkness wrapped the city, Amora lay awake, her body aching with prayers unanswered. She would turn toward the window, clutching her rosary as if each bead were a lifeline. Chidi would watch her from his side of the bed. He hated the way her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Sometimes he reached out and pulled her into his chest. "One day," he whispered, stroking her hair. "One day, God will bless us." But inside him, a gnawing fear grew. What if one day never comes? The nights stretched into years, their marriage tested not by lack of love but by the unbearable silence of absence. And still, they held each other, both refusing to let go of the dream of tiny footsteps on their polished floor. It was at a cousin's wedding that the whispers cut deepest. Amora walked through the crowd, her lace wrapper glowing under the sun, but behind her back, tongues wagged. So pretty, so educated, yet still no child. Later, as she carried a plate of jollof to the elders' table, she overheard an aunt say, 10 years, and nothing to show. Perhaps Chidi should marry again. The words pierced her chest like knives. Her smile crumbled. That night, when they returned home, Amora broke down. She sank to the floor, clutching her wrapper. "Chidi, I'm failing you. I'm failing us." Chidi knelt beside her, lifting her chin. His voice cracked but remained firm. "You are my wife, Amora. I didn't marry you for children, I married you for you. Do not let them break you." But as he held her, her tears soaking into his shirt, he knew the weight of their barrenness was crushing them both. Word of a new specialist spread like wildfire through Enugu. Some called him a miracle worker, others a fraud. But when a church member whispered to Amora, "He helped my cousin after 15 barren years," hope lit in her heart like a spark in dry grass. Chidi was skeptical. They had tried hospitals, herbalists, even fasting retreats where pastors poured anointing oil until it soaked their clothes. Nothing had worked. But when he saw Amora's eyes, desperate, pleading, he agreed. The clinic was small but spotless, with lavender walls and the faint smell of disinfectant. The doctor spoke gently, explaining treatments in a calm, measured voice. For the first time, it didn't feel like a sales pitch, it felt like possibility. Weeks turned into months. Then one quiet morning, Amora sat in the bathroom, staring at the test strip in her shaking hands. 2 bold lines glared back at her. Her scream shook the entire house. "Chidi!" He came running, his heart pounding, and when she showed him, he collapsed to his knees, laughing and crying all at once. After 11 long years, the silence in their house cracked, replaced with the sound of answered prayer. The pregnancy turned their world into a festival. Chidi painted the nursery himself, splashing pale yellow across the walls, even though the painter they hired had already done it. "No," he said, smiling like a boy. "My child will sleep under the collars I laid." Amora spent hours picking fabrics at Ogbit Market, choosing only the softest pink curtains, the gentlest blankets. She hummed lullabies even when her belly was only beginning to swell. Neighbors who once gossiped now flocked to their gate with gifts, baskets of fruits, wrappers, prayers. The once quiet house now rang with songs of joy. Even the walls seemed to hum along. She came into the ward on a harmattan night. The hospital lights were harsh, the air filled with amorous cries and the hurried voices of nurses. Chidi's heart nearly stopped when he heard the thin wail of a newborn. When the midwife placed the baby in Amora's trembling arms, time froze. She was tiny, her skin warm and soft, her lungs powerful enough to wake the heavens. Amora whispered through tears, "Nkemdelai. What is mine will last." Chidi kissed his daughter's forehead, his own tears blurring his sight. In that moment, all the years of shame, all the whispers, all the endless nights dissolved. The void in their home was gone, replaced by a heartbeat. They had prayed for rain, and now a river had come. Nkem was not raised like other children. She was adored, worshipped, treated as if every breath she took was a miracle that could vanish if ignored. At her slightest whimper, Amora ran, gathering her into arms. At her tiniest cough, Chidi rushed for doctors, medicine, prayers. They refused to let her cry, refused to let her want. When other babies rolled on mats, Nkem rolled on imported blankets. When other toddlers wore hand-me-downs, she sparkled in lace sewn by the best tailors in Enugu. Visitors often said, "Oh, you people are spoiling this child." But Amora only smiled, kissing her daughter's tiny toes. "Let her be spoiled. Do you know how long we waited for her?" And so, without knowing it, they began building the altar that would one day consume them. By age 3, Nkem was already ruling the house like a queen on her throne. If Amora tried to feed her vegetables, she would spit them out, slam her tiny fist, and scream until ice cream replaced the plate. Chidi, exhausted after work, would laugh it off. Let her have it. She's still small. But the neighbors noticed. One afternoon, Mama Ifioma, their next-door neighbor, shook her head after Nkem threw sand at her son. "Chidi, Amora, this your child is too stubborn. Don't let love turn to foolishness." They both laughed. "Leave her. She's our miracle," Amora said proudly. The little dictator smiled, sensing her power. At kindergarten, Nkem's willfulness only grew. She shoved children who tried to share her toys, snatched pencils, and wailed if the teacher scolded her. One day, the headmistress called Amora in. "Madam, your daughter is bright, very bright. But she refuses correction. She thinks the world must bow to her." Amora bristled. "My daughter is just confident. Don't mistake her spirit for disobedience." At home, Nkem threw her bag on the floor and demanded biscuits before homework. Chidi chuckled, ruffling her hair. "That's my strong girl." But the seed of indulgence had sprouted, and no one was pulling the weeds. By the time Nkem turned 7, cracks began to show in their perfect palace. She shouted at maids, calling them stupid. She tore her dresses when she didn't get new ones. When her cousin visited, Nkem locked her out of the playroom, screaming, "Everything here is mine." Amora tried gentle scolding, but Nkem would pout, burst into tears, and Amora's heart melted. After all, hadn't she begged God for this very child? One evening, when Chidi tried to discipline her by refusing a new toy, Nkem stomped her feet, her eyes blazing. If you don't buy it, I won't eat. I'll die, and it'll be your fault. Chidi froze, the words cutting deep. He caved, buy not one toy but two. He told himself, it's just a phase. But in truth, the child was becoming their master. At 10, Nkem had already become a spectacle. Her birthday parties were legendary in the neighborhood. Clowns, bouncing castles, photographers, no expense was spared. She strutted among her friends, giving orders as if she were hosting a royal ball. Other parents whispered, see how they are raising her. Tomorrow, they will regret. But Chidi and Amora only basked in the glow of her beauty, her intelligence, her fierce confidence. Our daughter is destined for greatness, Amora often said, her voice dripping with pride. And so the worship continued, blind, boundless, dangerous. It happened one rainy evening. Amora discovered that Nkem had stolen money from her purse to buy sweets for classmates. Shocked, she confronted her. Instead of apologizing, Nkem crossed her arms and glared. So what? You have plenty money. And I wanted it. The slap came before Amora even thought. Her hand trembled as she realized what she had done. Nkem's eyes widened, then filled with tears. She ran to her father. When Chidi came home, he found his wife crying harder than their daughter. You hit her. Amora, she's just a child. I don't know what came over me, Amora whispered, wringing her hands. I felt afraid of her. It was the first betrayal of parent against child, but also of child against the parent's blind faith. Something had shifted. Something dangerous. At 13, Nkem was a storm wrapped in beauty. Her classmates envied her clothes, her charm, the way she carried herself like royalty. Boys hovered around her like moths around lights, and she basked in their attention. But with that came defiance. She rolled her eyes at her teachers, refused chores at home, and snapped at her parents whenever they asked questions. Don't talk to me like I'm a child, she screamed one evening when Amora asked why she was late from school. Amora's lips trembled. She whispered, but you are my child. Nkem slammed her bedroom door. The silence that followed was heavier than all the years of waiting for her birth. Soon, Nkem's nights became mysteries. She would leave for a group studies and return past midnight, the smell of perfume and cigarettes clinging to her clothes. Chidi confronted her once. Where were you? With friends, she replied coldly, scrolling through her phone. What friends? He pressed. She glanced up, her eyes sharp as knives. You wouldn't understand. When he tried to take her phone, she screamed so loud that neighbors gathered outside their gate. Chidi froze, his authority stripped bare in public. From that day, he stopped asking questions. Fear had replaced fatherhood. Amora tried to hold on. She prayed, she fasted, she anointed Nkem's door with oil every Sunday. Yet her daughter drifted further, like a ship tearing away from its anchor. One afternoon, Amora found a pack of cigarettes hidden in Nkem's school bag. Her knees buckled. Nkem, why? Why are you doing this to us? Nkem sneered. Because it's my life. Not yours. Amora's tears fell freely. I gave everything for you. My body, my soul, my prayers. Then maybe you should have kept something for yourself, Nkem muttered, walking away. That night, Amora wept into her pillow until sleep came like a punishment. The news came like thunder on a clear day. A neighbor's son confessed that Nkem had been sneaking into parties with older boys, drinking and dancing in ways that shamed her parents' name. Chidi nearly collapsed when he heard. He had spent years parading her as his pride, his miracle. Now whispers returned to the streets, see the girl they worshipped. She has turned wild. When Chidi tried to lecture her, Nkem laughed in his face. You think you can control me now? You gave me everything I ever wanted. And now you want to cage me. Too late, Papa. For the first time, Chidi felt true hatred mingling with his love. It all came to a head one night. Nkem stormed in at 2 a.m., her lipstick smudged, her hair tangled. Amora grabbed her wrist. "Where are you coming from?" Nkem yanked free. "Leave me alone." Chidi's voice thundered, "You will not disgrace this family." Nkem's eyes blazed. "This family? What family? You two live for me, breathe for me, and now you want to pretend you're parents. Please." She shoved past them, slamming her bedroom door so hard the hinges rattled. Amora sank to the floor, trembling. "Chidi, we are losing her." Chidi clenched his fist, his voice breaking. "No, we already lost her." The once lively home became a battlefield. Chidi and Amora fought more than they spoke. He accused her of overindulging Nkem, she accused him of being too weak. Meanwhile, Nkem drifted further away, skipping school, ignoring curfews, laughing at the rules that once bound the household. The neighbors who once envied them now shook their heads. See, the child they prayed for has become the child of their sorrow. In the silence of their bedroom, Amora clutched her husband's hand, her voice barely a whisper. "Do you think God gave us this child to punish us?" Chidi had no answer. Only tears. At 16, Nkem began hanging out with a new group, older boys with flashy cars, gold chains, and dangerous laughter. They called her a princess, showering her with gifts, new phones, designer clothes, nights out in clubs. Amora noticed her daughter's wardrobe changing, her perfume smelling too expensive for a student. "Nkem, where do you get all this from?" "Friends," she said flatly. "Friends who treat me better than you do." Chidi's jaw tightened, but fear silenced him. The child they once begged for was slipping into shadows they could not follow. The call came at midnight. Nkem had been picked up at a nightclub raid. Chidi rushed to the police station, his heart pounding, shame burning his face as he signed papers to secure her release. The officer eyed him coldly. "Control your daughter, sir. Next time, it won't be this easy." In the car, Chidi tried to speak, but Nkem rolled her eyes. "Stop acting like it's the end of the world. Everyone goes clubbing." Tears burned in Chidi's eyes. "Everyone doesn't end up in a police cell." She laughed, a sound so sharp it cut deeper than any insult. The family's reputation cracked. Church members whispered. Relatives avoided them. Amora stopped attending women's meetings out of shame. One Sunday, during service, the pastor preached on Proverbs, "Train up a child in the way she should go." Amora felt every word pierce her like a dagger. That evening, she confronted Nkem. "Do you know how much I've prayed for you? How many nights I've stayed awake crying for your future?" Nkem snapped, "Then maybe you should stop praying and start letting me live my life." Amora slapped her again, harder this time. But Nkem didn't cry. She only smiled coldly. "You finally learned. But it's too late." At 17, Nkem disappeared for 2 days. Chidi and Amora nearly went mad searching. When she finally returned, her clothes were torn, her eyes bloodshot. She refused to speak of where she'd been. That night, Chidi paced the sitting room, fist clenched. "We must send her away. Boarding school, rehabilitation, anything." Amora shook her head. "No, she's all we have. All we have." Chidi roared. "Amora, she's destroying us." The walls trembled with their shouting, while Nkem, upstairs, blasted music so loud it drowned their grief. Soon after, rumors spread that Nkem was dating a notorious boy in town, a petty criminal known for theft and street fights. Chidi confronted her. "Leave that boy, or you'll regret it." Nkem smacked. "You regret everything already. I don't care. Amora begged, knelt, even held her daughter's feet. Please, my jewel, don't throw your life away. But Nkem only shrugged. It's my choice. Not yours. The parents looked at each other, helpless. They had prayed for this child, but she was now walking hand in hand with ruin. It happened one stormy night. The police raided their home, searching for stolen goods linked to Nkem's boyfriend. Neighbors gathered in shameful silence as officers turned the house upside down. Though nothing was found, the damage was done. Chidi's business partners withdrew. Amora's friends stopped visiting. Their home became a prison of whispers. After the police left, Chidi collapsed on the floor, sobbing like a broken man. This child will kill us, Amora. Amora clutched his hand, her tears soaking his palm. Then let us die together, because we cannot let her go. And upstairs, Nkem stood by the window, watching lightning flash across the sky, her face unreadable. Chidi's health began to fail. The stress of constant disgrace, sleepless nights, and financial losses gnawed at his strength. One evening, as he lay on the sofa clutching his chest, he whispered to Amora, "If we don't stop her, she'll bury me alive." Amora wept, holding his frail hand. "She's all we have, Chidi. We can't give up on her." But when Nkem walked in, laughing on the phone, ignoring her father's groans, a terrible thought flickered in Amora's heart: what if we had never had her? It was the first time she ever regretted her miracle. Nkem's love for her criminal boyfriend blinded her completely. One night, she stole a large sum of money from her father's office safe to give him. When Chidi discovered the theft, he collapsed in his study, clutching his chest again. Amora rushed him to the hospital, where doctors confirmed he had suffered a mild heart attack. "Your stress is killing you," the doctor warned. But when Nkem came to the hospital, she showed no remorse. "I needed it. He needed me. You'll recover." Amora slapped her so hard her palm stung. "You will kill your father with your selfishness." Nkem's eyes burned with defiance. "Maybe he deserves it." The words pierced Amora like poison. A month later, it happened. The police arrested Nkem's boyfriend for armed robbery, and she was caught with him. When Chidi and Amora arrived at the station, they found their daughter handcuffed, her face smeared with tears, her beauty dimmed by fear. The officer sneered. "This is your miracle child. She's looking at years in prison if charges hold." Chidi fell to his knees, begging, pleading, offering everything to save her. He used up his last business connections, drained their savings, and bribed his way to her release. But when they got home, Nkem screamed at them. "Why did you free me? You don't own me. You can't control me." For the first time, Chidi struck her. His hands trembled afterward, not from anger, but from heartbreak. The house once filled with laughter and toys now echoed with silence. Chidi grew weaker, his once proud shoulders stooped with defeat. Amora aged years in months, her eyes hollow from crying. And Nkem. She grew colder. She stopped speaking to them except to demand money. She stopped eating with them, praying with them, or even acknowledging their presence. One evening, Amora found her packing a bag. "Where are you going?" Nkem didn't look up. "Anywhere but here." Amora clutched her hands, trembling. "My child, my jewel, please don't leave us." Nkem pulled away. "You wanted a miracle. Now live with it." And she walked out. Weeks later, the call came. Nkem had been in a car crash while fleeing from the police after another nightclub raid. Her boyfriend died on the spot. Nkem survived, but barely. At the hospital, Amora collapsed at the sight of her daughter lying pale, tubes in her nose, her once fiery eyes now empty. Chidi held her hand, tears streaming down his cheeks. "We prayed for you, we begged heaven for you," and now look at us. For the first time in years, Nkem whispered, her voice cracked and broken, "I'm sorry." It was too late to undo the years, but not too late to whisper forgiveness. Months later, Nkem recovered enough to walk again, though she carried scars, both on her body and her spirit. She never returned to her old friends. She stayed home, quiet, subdued, as if her fire had finally burned itself out. But the damage was done. Chidi's health never fully recovered. Amora's hair turned completely grey before its time. Their finances were in ruins. And yet, each evening, as they sat together in silence, Chidi would glance at Amora and whisper, "She's still ours." For better or worse. Amora would nod, tears in her eyes, whispering, "We asked God for a child. He gave us one. But we forgot to raise her with wisdom, not worship." And somewhere deep inside, Nkem heard the words, and for the first time in years, she cried, not out of anger, but out of regret. In the end, the couple who once longed for the cry of a child found only the silence of regret. They had prayed, they had waited, but in their love, they forgot one thing, that a child is not a god to be worshipped, but a soul to be guided. And so, the gift they had begged heaven for became the storm that tore their home apart. This was their story. A story of love, of blindness, and of a bitter lesson too late learned. Love is a gift, but unchecked love becomes poison. A child is a blessing, but without discipline, that blessing can become a curse. Chidi and Amora learned too late, to raise a child is not just to pamper them, but to prepare them for life. A child is a blessing, but blessings must be nurtured with wisdom. We hope you enjoyed this story. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section. Kindly share so it reaches others, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you'll be the first to get our upcoming stories. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you for your support.